Once again, welcome to Tim Anderson Horse Training. Today I'm going to show you a little bit about some of the bits that I use, some of the bridles. This is a side pull, rope nose side pull. I use this on horses that are just getting started, really don't know how to follow their nose yet. I don't want to be pulling on a horse's mouth if he don't know how to follow his nose. A lot of times I'll put this on the horse first, just to get him in the idea of following his nose. Usually won't have a horse in this more than maybe a week. Typically doesn't take any longer than that. Once he's out of that, I'll advance him to a snaffle bit. This is an egg butt snaffle. This is probably my favorite snaffle bit that I use. It's tapered a little bit right here going towards the middle. I like this. It works really good to teach a horse how to give laterally. Snaffle bits are mainly geared towards lateral movement in the head, and with that snaffle bit I can get him turning his head, softening, breaking at the pole, get him doing a lot of things. I start everything in the snaffle bit, get him figuring out how to follow his nose. I have a couple other bits that I'll go to if horse is giving me a little bit of trouble in the snaffle bit. This is a twisted wire snaffle. Has a little bit of texture to it. I'll go to that if the horse is pulling on my hands. A lot of times if I pull and the horse pulls back with his face, I'll go to something like that. Has a little bit of texture in it. The other thing I'll go to, if I have kind of what I call a drafty feeling horse, a horse that's kind of heavy in my hands, I'll go to this bit. This is physically a heavier bit. This bit probably weighs 2 pounds, maybe a little bit more. Same smooth mouth, but it's a heavier bit. If I have a horse that's not wanting to pick the bit up and pack it in his mouth, a lot of times I'll go to this bit. This bit, if the horse is not holding the bit in his mouth, then he's feeling the weight on the pole. It's tough. So this will teach a horse to pick a bit up and pack it and hold it correctly. And if I have a horse that's kind of drafty feeling, what I call drafty feeling, just kind of hangs on my hands, a lot of times I'll go to that bit. Now I have basically 3 stages of bits. I have my snaffle bits to get them started, and I have my intermediate bits to carry them further along. For the most part, the snaffle bits, I feel like they work from the shoulders forward, and then when I start working on the ribs, the hips, I'll go to a more intermediate bit. This is a broken mouth, has a small port. Generally, a broken mouth bit encourages softness, lateral softness in the horse, and a non-broken mouth bit like this one encourages the horse to be a little bit more straighter in his body. So after the snaffle bit, I got control of his head, I got him follow his nose, have some basic movements on him. Then I'll go to a bit like this. Broken mouth bit, has a little bit of curb pressure. I can use this bit to start my counterbending exercises. You see me do a lot of those in my videos. I can start elevating the shoulders, elevate the shoulder, engage the hip. This is a bit that I'll start that in. Another option is a bit like this. It's real similar. Broken mouth bit, it swivels this way, it just doesn't swivel the other way. Kind of the same thing. Different horses like different pressures, so it gives me a couple of options. So that's kind of an intermediate bit. Once I get the horse kind of broke loose in the shoulders, which is mainly what I use these with, then I start wanting to lift the shoulders up, get him bending laterally. I start wanting to elevate the shoulders, so I go to a bit like this. It's a solid mouthpiece bit. Has a little bit of a port to it. Not much, pretty sizable mouthpiece. That's probably 3/8 mouthpiece. So that's pretty mild bit. With this bit, I can start engaging a little bit more curb pressure, get him a little bit straighter in the face, start elevating the shoulders, engage the hip. I use this bit a good bit, and I use this bit a lot. Basically the same thing. The only difference is this has a flat port, this one has a rounded port. This one has more square corners here on the bottom. This one has more rounded corners. I'm a big believer in never riding a horse in the same bit more than 3 rides in a row. Helps to keep the horse's mouth fresh. So even if I'm training, if I'm getting most of the training done in this bit, about every 3rd or 4th ride, I'll either back up a bit, go to something like this, or I'll step up a bit. I feel like I'm always asking the horse to do a little bit more. If he gives it to me, great. If he doesn't give it to me, then I back down and then re-encourage the basics that I'm working on. So I'm constantly changing bits. I don't ever ride a horse in a bit more than 3 rides in a row. And that's the whole life of the horse. So these bits, I've got him started under saddle, have him following his nose, have flexion. These bits, I have him elevating his shoulders, counterbending exercise, engaging his hip. So then I'm going to go on to more finished work. I'll keep the horse in these bits for maybe a year, roughly, depending on how the horse is advancing. Then I'll go into more of my finishing bits. This would be something I'd go to after this bit. I can get a little bit more finishing work done. It has a roller in it. I'm asking the horse to do a little bit more. That'll occupy his mind a little bit. I train a lot of reiners, a lot of rein cow horses. So I go to a roller. The cow horses tend to be a little bit more nervous. So that'll help occupy them. I have a leather curb strap on this one. You can adjust your pressure greatly by changing your curb straps. The leverage of the bit will engage when this curb strap engages. So I can either tighten the curb strap down so the bit will engage sooner, or I can loosen the curb strap where the bit will rotate further before it will engage. Sometimes when loosening or tightening that strap can make a big difference on the horse. A lot of times you have a horse that I'm asking something new, so he's not sure what I'm asking, so I'll lengthen this curb strap, give him a little bit more time to think about what's coming before he actually gets the pressure. So this is a bit I use when I'm working on a little more finished work. This is another bit that I'll use right here. It's kind of similar bars. This one is solid across the tongue, where this one has some tongue relief, has a smaller roller. The port's just a little bit different. And again, that goes back to not riding the same bit more than 3 rides in a row. I have bits that are similar but different, and then that way I can rotate horses back and forth between this bit, and say that bit, and continue his training on from there. This bit has a curved chain on it. Different horses might do better with curved chain, might do better with curved strap. Might do good with curved chain one day and then the curved strap the next day. It's all about keeping those pressure points soft and responsive. There's 7 pressure points on a horse's head. This bit is going to engage in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pressure points. It's not going to engage in the palate of the mouth. It's not tall enough, and it's not going to engage on the nose. It will engage on the pole, chin, corners of the mouth, and the bars and the tongue. So we keep that in mind. Some horses have a little thicker tongues than others. Some horses have little skinny tongues. Some horses have thick tongues. You have to keep that in mind when I'm picking out bits. A horse with a real thick tongue might not do good with this bit, where that gives a little bit more tongue release, would do better in that bit. Now when I'm getting on into my upper end finishing my show horses, a lot of horses I'll have in these bits when I start showing them. But as they're progressing more, I'll go to a little bit more bit. I'll go to this bit, kind of similar to that last bit I showed you. Straight across the mouth. There's no port, there's no tongue relief there. It's a bigger roller, curb chain, and there's cover across the front of the roller. Depends on how the horse's mouth is built. If he has a real tall mouth, this is probably not going to touch the roof of his mouth. If he has a flat roof of his mouth, then this might touch the roof of his So again, this is into my more finishing my show horses. Here's another one. This one has a taller port. If I have a horse that I'm asking for real far stops, I'm talking like 20 feet plus, and in the middle of a stop I feel his shoulders start to drop, I go to a bit like this, a little bit taller port, and what that port will do will elevate his head just a little bit as far as round his neck. I'm not looking for his head to come up in the air. I'm looking for his head to break at the pole and elevate, which will elevate his shoulders and help keep the shoulders out of the way during the long stops. So a lot of times when I have a horse that I'm really asking to stop longer, I'm going to go to a ported bit with a little bit higher mouth to make contact with the roof of the mouth. And then I have this bit, kind of similar but different. This is this bit has about a 2 3/4 inch port, AQHA, NRHA legal bit, and this will touch the roof of his mouth. It's smooth. It has like a spoon at the top, a lot of tongue release right here. This is I had a horse that I was campaigning and was getting really falling its shoulders down in the stop. This is what I put it in. Really help the horse keep the shoulders elevated to the stop. Then I have, we ride a lot in Ramels. So I have my Ramels here. We do a lot of rein cow horse. So all rein cow horses riding Ramels. I have most of my beginner students riding Ramels. It helps to square the shoulders up, hold the reins in one hand, hold the Ramel in the other, helps them sit up square. Where if they split reins, they have a tendency to twist their shoulders a little bit. So that's the bits on my wall. I have a couple others that I keep handy that I might switch to if I'm having a specific problem that I'm wanting to work on, but this is pretty much my bit program. Beginning horse snaffle bit, I'll keep those, the rope nose maybe a week. Snaffle bit could be 2 months, might be 6 months, might be a year. A lot of times if I'm in the training, let's say I'm in this mode, elevate the shoulders, engaging the hip, and I lose some of my face control, I'll go back to the snaffle bit. So there's no hard set as far as a time, but I will jump around. If I have a finished horse, I might need to come back to the snaffle bit and working. It depends on what I'm working on. The bit basically controls from the withers forward. The right rein is connected to the right shoulder, the left rein is connected to the left shoulder. With the bit, I can get the horse's head turned left and right, I can get him broke the pole, I can get him elevated shoulders. So depending on which part of that I'm working on is going to determine which bit I'm using. But thank you for watching my video today. I hope you found it informative. And please click on the subscribe button and so you'll receive future videos. Thank you.